Hello there, fellow exiles. It's that time again. Phrecia is coming up here in 3.27, so it's time to prepare a league starter so you can gonna get a good entry into the league and get some good farming going. I've had a lot of Shield Crush videos on this channel here, and this will be no exception to it because it's still an extremely strong skill and very cheap and satisfying to get going. So this will be a video about that. Usually I am running Slayer because the ascendancy is more or less just tailored to running Shield Crush. But since we have alternative ascendancies in Phrecia League, Slayer is no longer an option. So I've been looking elsewhere, and I will be going Wildspeaker. So instead of Duelist, I'll be starting Ranger and then going into Wildspeaker. I'll go over this in a minute, but first off, I just want to show a little update to how much power you can get for basically nothing. So if you go to my channel, ilnino-gaming, and you go under playlists, you can find the playlist for 3.27, Keepers of the Flame. And if you scroll down in the bottom, there is a league start prep for it if you want to see that. But the interesting stuff is the Shield Crush, the 2 Divine Budget Shield Crush Slayer. Actually, this one up here. It's over here now, so you can see it's a 2 Div Budget tier 17 farmer with more than 23 million DPS. So if we just check this real quick, so we can check the numbers. So you can see the 23 million DPS right here and EHP of 130,000. And the gear is just a normal prismatic eclipse, just with 3 green sockets onto it. Pretty good helmet. A normal Empress Vigilance, decent ring, decent chest piece with a frenzy charge every 15 seconds. Then another decent ring, Hemophilia gloves with a corrupted +1 frenzy, a normal Perseverance and normal Dark Ray Vectors, Lion's Roar, some movement speed and a little bit of crit here, and Seething Fury, and then a Lethal Pride as well. And then there is a replica Dragonfang's Flight. These spiked a lot in price after I posted the build. I could buy this for 20-25 chaos at the time, and suddenly they were a couple of divines, so this might not be available early on. Just disclaimer there. But it's a super simple build put together, and you can go in and check it here on the playlist. And it is tried and true, and the video, going back here, there is a little bit of a showcase against tier 17 bosses early on, and then there's a full tier 17 run where I also run a Blight Heart. Let's see where it is, if I can find it. So you can see there's a Blight Heart going on here. So if you want to see what the build can do, go and check that out. Okay, let's go into the PoB. So, disclaimer first here, you can see I have a very low DPS number, but the reason for that is that I only have a normal Empress Vigilance, which isn't rolled that well, Dark Ray Vectors, and Seething Fury. I also have 2 rings, but this is only to give me enough accuracy to hit a 100% hit chance. So these don't really deal any damage. The rest is all on the tree. One exception though is that I have 25% chance to impale enemies and hit with attacks, and that's because I don't have any grafts, and the grafts can easily get you that amount of impale chance. If we look at the skill, just to have that absolutely established at first, you can see it's Shield Crush 2020, and then just level 20 Multi-Strike, Brutality, Polarize, Fortify, and Impale. Aspect of the Cat, Precision, and Enduring Cry. So these are the things that's on right now. If we look at the configuration again, I don't have any of the cat aspects active, but you can see the damage goes up mainly on one of them because stealth gives you more crit chance, and it's almost at 100% already. So that's the disclaimer here at the beginning. So let's go over the tree first. Actually, no, let's start ramping things up because it is very quickly done. So, if we put in a Prismatic Eclipse just for some extra attack speed, damage goes up to almost 3.4 million. But if we remove it again, Then there's something called, well, not called, it's just like a stat stick here. So you can see I have Dexterity, Crit Multi, Impale Effect, and Minions deal 50% increased damage. The reason for this is that you can easily buy a Fractured base with either Dexterity or Crit Multi, and then you use Essence of Dread, I think they're called, to force on the Impale effect, and then you can craft on 50 to 55% increased minion damage. And look at the damage, 3.3 million right now, 4.8 million. And well, now we better get a look at Wildspeaker. So Wildspeaker, the key to this build is the combination of Flesh of Teeth, where you get level 30 aspect of the cat and it has no reservation. And then you get Fearful Symmetry, which says that you gain up to your maximum number of Phrecia and power charges whenever you gain cat stealth. And +1 Phrecia and +1 power charges. So instead of having the usual 3 maximum charges, you get 4 and 4 of these. So what you do is that you make sure you get all of these Phrecia charges here. So you get +3 here from the tree, and you have +1 here, so that's +4, and then you can get it on the gloves. I showed on Hemophilia before. Where are they? Here. They're here. So here. That means you're sitting at 8 Phrecia charges right now. If you are sitting at 8 Phrecia charges, you get a lot of value. Say there's some evasion rating, some movement speed, increased attack speed per Phrecia charge, and increased damage per Phrecia charge. Look at the movement speed modifier down here. This is without flasks or mage blood or anything like that. 104% movement speed modifier. This is your base. This is what you have all the time. Also, note the damage. Almost 5.5 million with just these items here. Just bear that in mind because it scales rapidly. But let's go back because I keep forgetting to go through the Wildspeaker. So this is the main draw. So at level 50, 55, when you get your second lap done, you can go into this, and at that time you will at least have 2 of these nodes, so the Phrecia here and the Phrecia here, and then you can go down having these here, and at that time you will have 6 Phrecia charges. So 6 Phrecia charges by level 50, 55 is absolutely nuts, because you get 4% increased attack speed, so that's 24% increased attack speed, which is really good, but you also get 4% more global damage per Phrecia charge. So getting 6 charges of that is pretty much like another link to your setup because you get 24% more damage. And you just have it from this. So this is extremely strong. Then there is Scourge of the Wilds. And last time Phrecia ran, I was also running a Wildspeaker and it was really, really strong. I slept on this for too long and it's really amazing. Has so much damage on this. Just look at it. So you can see 3.67k, 3.67 million right now. We put this on, almost 5.5. So that's a lot of damage coming from this one. And then just let's get the last one because I mean just having Tailwind is pretty nice. So you can see 89% movement speed modifier up to 104, and you get some more damage as well. And then there's the minion deal 10% increased damage, but because Scourge of the Wild says that increases to minion damage affect you at 150% of their value, this is 15% global damage. And global damage is important because that allows you to scale the damage from Hemophilia. So instead of, you go onto the tree, say these nodes here, they say only increased attack physical damage. So this doesn't scale the damage from Hemophilia. But whenever you get agnostic damage, physical damage, such as these nodes up here with Master Blades, this scales the damage from Hemophilia. And so does the damage from Scourge of the Wilds. So it is no stretch that you get, whenever you kill a bleeding enemy, they will explode for 5% of their maximum life. This is not a stretch to say that you will easily get that up to like 30%, maybe 40%, maybe even more than that if you really invest into it. And if you have an enemy exploding for 30 to 40% of its maximum life, then you just clear things. And this is part of the reason why you can, on day 2, on a budget, you can start running Blightheart into your 17 maps. That's how good this is, so keep that in mind. And that is also why, whenever you use a rapier such as this, you have an obscene amount of damage from this one, because the minions deal 50% increased damage. That is just translates directly to being 75% increased damage, which goes on everything you do. And then the dexterity, if we just go down to, say, we got scale it down to 50 dexterity, for example, then you get, it's you divide by 4, so it's like 12.5 increased damage that you get from that, and then you multiply that by 150%, so it's close to 20% increased damage from the dexterity that you get, on top of the usual dexterity nodes. This also means that you might even consider going into utmost swiftness and try and scale, maybe get to like 600-700 dexterity. That's not out of the question that you can get that, and then you get a lot of value from this, and it's right next to the tree. So this is like, it's really a shoestring budget here, and you can scale things so easily. Say actually, if we go to get a perseverance, for example, so we also have onslaught. See how much did it increase? So it didn't increase that much actually. Did I forget? Yeah, I'm fortified. This was better. So now we go from 5.5 million up to 6.1 million, and the movement speed is now up to 125. And this is a really, really good playing experience. But if we start, then put in a Lion's Roar. See if I can type now. And it's easy to get a max roll on it. So then we're at 6.7 million. And it's without an amulet. The rings don't do anything except from the accuracy rating, and you don't have any of the other flasks, and you can get some extra value from elsewhere as well. And it's also like you have at least 1 graph slot open, and you have 2 dual sockets open as well. So this is really bare bones, but we can of course start scaling a little bit more. So let's say we go with Pride. Put that in. Now we're sitting at 8 million. Maybe we add in Blood and Sand as well, because that's so easy to just slot in. Now we're sitting at 9 million, and that's initial effect. So if we go up to maximum, then we're already at 10 million. And I mean, this is basically no investment at all. But this Emperor's Vigilance here is the normal one. If you go in and get, say, a perfect rolled Foulborn, look at the damage, almost 13 million now. You see where this is going. It's just ramping so quickly for a relatively low budget. So I think like you can do the math yourself about how you can scale this stuff. So let me go over the pathing and some notes on the masteries, and then I'll call it a video. So actually no, I should also show you how I would level this up. But at first, you can see it's just pathing. Oh, you can maybe path here and take the dexterity notes here if you want to save a couple of notes here and get some extra value back. But I like this route here because there's a movement speed and some suppression here, and then you basically only need these 2 nodes here and the lucky suppress chance, and then you're sitting at 65% suppression chance. So it's a pretty decent start, and it also gives you 3 really good locations for putting in Lethal Pride or the Light of Meaning jewels, because you can allocate a lot of nodes in either of these 3 places here. And this one here, if you want to, you can go up and take these nodes here. All of these nodes are beneficial, and then if you sock it in a Lethal Pride, I have one here, then you can see how many notables you actually get. It will of course warp your tree a little bit, but it's just a note to keep in mind. Yeah. For the masteries, this one is an absolutely mandatory part. 100% chance increased charge duration. This means that your charges will be kept up all the time. without this, they will run out before Aspect of the Cat can reapply your charges. So this is the reason why I have Power, Phrecia, and Endurance charges checked on. I also have 32 Rage, and then I have the Fortified, and I have Bleeding enemies, and then I have the 25% chance to impale enemies and hit with attacks, and that's like, I mentioned that earlier. I went down to the normal Pride effect, just the initial one. So, charge duration, and then this one, Fearful Symmetry, takes care of both Phrecia and Power charges. Then Deflection takes care of Endurance charges, because this build has, with a normal Emperor's Vigilance, it has 75-74% spell block chance. And 25% of the time, whenever you block, you get an Endurance charge. This builds your charges almost immediately, up to full on the Endurance charges, and you just keep them up without having to worry about it. If you're in a boss fight and you fear they might run out because your charges, like if the boss has phases such as Katarina in Tier 17 Cigarette, what you do is just you use an Enduring Cry, and then you make sure you refresh your Endurance charges whenever you can, and then you have 20 seconds to kill the boss and go through the phase until you can start hitting it again and build your charges again. So just Enduring Cry anywhere in your setup, you're good to go. And you can just use, like, you don't have to use a level 20. You can use a level 1. That's plenty fine. So you don't have to worry about the mana cost on that. Then there's Shield Mastery here. Crit multi per 10 maximum immunity shield and shield. You can also go, usually early on I just go with attack damage because it's a little safer, because instead of raising the ceiling, I like raising the floor because it just gives me a better clear. And sometimes you'll encounter monsters which have crit immunity, and then you just want to be able to kill those as well, and not just put all your eggs in one basket being crit. This one over here, Rage Mastery. Nearby enemies are intimidated while you have Rage. +1 Rage and hit. At first I'd actually dismissed this one as not being very good, but you gain 1 Rage on melee hit, so that would of course take 32 seconds. 16 seconds before you can build 32 Rage. But this is your sustain, that's the way you look at it. And then this one up here is the really big one, because you gain 3 Rage when hit by an enemy. And for this, for the sake of this, whenever you block, it counts as being hit when it, like when you take in beneficial effects. And this is a beneficial effect, so whenever you block, you get 3 Rage. And then you also build yourself with getting Rage on melee hit. So with 75-74% block chance, you build your Rage and you build your Endurance charges through blocking. So just a note there. Then I have a Runegraft of the Sinistral here. So this is not the Life Mastery, and it's just 10% more attack speed with offhand. So this is just 10% more damage. That's what it is, and it makes you a lot faster. So it just put something in here and then just take this Runegraft. It's really cheap. Not a lot of people likes to use it. Then I have the suppress spell damage is lucky, so you can see I'm at 41%, and you can of course get more on your gear, but then if you make it lucky, it's up to 65%. So the most value you get from the lucky is if you get to 50% and you re-roll your chance to suppress twice, you get to like 75%, and then it starts dwindling down, but still you get so much value from it. So because suppression has been nerfed down from 50 to 40% damage reduction, I don't care capping my spell resistance. I just rely on block and other defensive layers, and then also the suppression, I'll just take this. And this node is really important because you gain life flash charges whenever you suppress spell damage. So again, in prolonged fights where you might be taking a lot of damage, and you need to use your life flasks because of stupid boss phases, this one will keep your life flasks running all the time because you suppress so much. So this is extremely good, especially for early tier 17 farming. Then I have a crit and bleed wheel down here, so there's 80% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies. So you get 10% chance to cause bleeding and 10 here. And then from Hemophilia, you get another 25%, so that means you're sitting at 45. And then you have some strength nodes here, which you can apply a tattoo to, and then get 5% chance to apply bleeding on hit. with attack, so you can get 20% more here. And just like take 2 of these, so you get up to like 55% chance to cause bleeding on hit. Then you're pretty good to go, because the way you can see I have 2 overlapping waves on Shield Crush, and that is because Shield Crush hits twice in front of you. So if you have 2 chances per attack to apply bleeding, then you will get that pretty quickly, and then you get the explosions from there. I have some accuracy notes here because Slayer has the 50% increased accuracy rating. Wildspeaker doesn't have that, so you might need this one here, but you could maybe just go into a lot of dexterity and then do it that way. I really like using taking this note here from the crit mastery whenever I have it, but I didn't want to go too far above. I actually wanted to be level 90. Oh. Yeah, I'm level 91 because of the points here I can see, because I allocated this one here. But yeah, I like that, and then you can get some more crit reduction from a lethal pride wherever you place it. If you get mana leech from a jewel, for example, and some life leech elsewhere, you don't need these. Then you're down to level 89 right now. And these notes up here, it's because you ignore enemy physical damage reduction, and it scales global physical damage, so that scales the explosion from hemophilia. But what you'd usually do is, eventually, you might actually just delete this entire branch up here and then go into large cluster duels. But we'll have to see. Some comments on endurance charges, because usually you have 3 from the get-go, and then you have 4 if you take this one over here. That is not a super high number when you compare to Slayer, where your frenzy charges max is equal to your endurance charge max. So you only have 4 with this one, but you could anoint 1, so you get to 5, and then you can get a corrupted pair of Dark Ray Vectors with +1 endurance charge, and then you're sitting at 6. 6 endurance charges is nothing to scoff at. I mean, the 4 is already very good, because you get 4% physical damage reduction and 4% elemental damage reduction per endurance charge that you have. So they are valuable, and they are worth skilling into. Regarding gear, you can do something with the replica badge of the Brotherhood, stating that your maximum endurance charges is equal to your maximum frenzy charges. But there are 2 huge downsides to this. One is you have a chance to lose frenzy charges whenever you use a travel skill, and this build really likes using shield charge to move around, so you will be losing your frenzy charges. You can then of course rebuild them, but it is annoying. And then you have a chance to lose an endurance charge whenever you gain fortification, and because this build relies on fortify on hit, that means whenever you attack, you have a chance to lose an endurance charge. This is not functionable, so it means you need to use Ralakish Impatience instead of Dark Ray Vectors. So this makes you lose one of your frenzy charges, but it sets your endurance charges to always count as being on maximum. This would allow you to not use deflection, for example, because you don't need to generate the charges, and you also get these points back. I am not sure, however, it is worth the investment, because Dark Ray Vectors are such amazing value in the boot slot, and the amulet is also very, very important. One of the things you could use, for example, as a cheap entry level, is an Impresence with the physical version of it, because it says that vulnerability has no reservation if cast as an aura. So if we go in and make this one here, go Blasphemy and vulnerability. So just level 2020, because whatever. You can see the damage goes up by quite a margin, because cursed enemies take increased physical damage, and then you also have 25% increased chance to inflict bleeding. The effect is reduced a little bit by Blasphemy, but still you get something. So let's say you get like 25% chance to inflict bleeding, and you're sitting at 45 already, that is 65, then you don't need to use tattoos. You get some extra damage, and the amulet is not that bad really. But there's of course also the replica, not replica badge of the Brotherhood. It is. Do I have it here? No, I don't have it here. So it will be a replica Dragonfang's Flight, which can give +3 to a Shield Crush. So if you do that, you see my Shield Crush is only level 20 right now. So if I move it up to 21, you see the damage goes up. But if you boost it to level 24, by some means, you see it's up at 14 million right now. And then of course we could put in the maximum effect here for Pride. And then you can take one of these for extra damage, and you can see this build will easily scale up and hit the +20 million DPS, like the Slayer did early on. And this is again fairly low level stuff right now. So you can see in the numbers here, this is level 89 right now. So I hope this gave some insight into how you can build a Wildspeaker and absolutely just thrash through content. And you might be struggling a little bit when you start dipping your toes into tier 17s because of the relatively low number of endurance charges. But as I mentioned, you can, like, this is very cheap to anoint stamina over here because it's only black, silver. It's not like this one up here where you start using golden oils. So if you do that, then I think Dark Ray Vectors is the way to go because you get so much movement speed from them. So also when you finish the campaign around level 65, when you put on these boots here, you will be sitting at 7, maybe even 8, probably only 7 frenzy charges whenever you put these on because you get +1 frenzy. So if you have, say you have all the frenzy charges here and you have Fearful Symmetry, that means you will be sitting at let's see, so that's +1. You'll be sitting at 8 right now. The build actually has 9 charges right now because of the gloves. So you'll be sitting at 8. So at level 65, you put on 40% increased movement speed boots, which also gives you some damage and evasion rating and all of the good stuff. So, I mean, it is busted. Also, I forget to mention the mastery here, block chance mastery, 1% chance to block spell damage per 5% chance to block attack damage. And that's because you can see if I remove it, I'm at 75, 74. I'll go down to 44, which is fine as well, but you just get so much spell block from this one note here. If you choose to go for more damage with the Foulborn Emperor's Vigilance, look what happens here. The damage already at +20 million right now, but there is something happening to the block chance, and it is easily fixed because instead of this one here, the block mastery, all you have to do is you just take Versatile Combatant, and then you don't have to worry about block anymore. You actually have too much. It is of course going down from 75, 74 to 65, 65, but it's still plenty, and getting that much more damage is nothing to scoff at. So just to go over this again, there's only one duel in this setup here. I'm sitting at 20 million damage right now. I don't have a helmet, I don't have a body armor, I don't have an amulet in here. Well, actually I do because, yeah, this is level 24. So let's put it down to level 20. So 15.7 million damage without an amulet, without helmet, body armor, without rings giving me anything but accuracy rating. I don't use flasks aside from Lion's Roar, and I don't have these here. So you can see this is super potent, and it gets off the ground so quickly, it's ridiculous. And also you'll just be blasting through the campaign. Because you just, as I describe in my league preparation video for 3.27, you just grab shields at low levels. Wait a second, I'll go fetch up a site. Okay, so I pulled up a browser here showing shield bases, and what you'll be looking out for is level 8. You will want a Pine Buckler because it has a very high number for scaling your flank damage. And then you use the Pine Buckler until level 16 when you get a Painted Buckler. because it has a huge jump in flat. And you can see this flat number of evasion is actually higher than you get at level 23. So these two, level 8, level 16, these are the important numbers to remember for the campaign. Then the next number that's important to remember is level 30, where you get a reinforced tower shield, and then it has like a 237 to 260. And what you do is you just go in and then you gamble for these bases and then you roll them, and because you're gambling, then you often get a pretty good rare shield. And this level 30 shield will carry you all the way to level 51, where you get a girded tower shield, and then you can see again it has a spread from almost 400 to 437. That is better than all of these higher level shields. And then you use that on up to level 67. When you're at level 67, if you don't want to buy a colossal tower shield from trade and you don't have an Emperor's Vigilance, you just go in, make sure you're level 67, and then you just save up your gold, and then you gamble for until you get a colossal tower shield. Then you craft that, and then you can easily get it to like 1500 to, if you're really lucky, you can get up to 2000 armor on a colossal tower shield at the end of the campaign. And then you have a shield which you can just blast through maps all the way up to red maps. So these are the numbers to remember: 67, 51 for the girded tower shield, level 30 for the reinforced tower shield, and then level 8 and 16 for the evasion shield. I think that's all for this walkthrough. It's a lot of talking and not that much gameplay, but if you want to see some gameplay, go check the channel, there's so much of it. But yeah, I'll be league starting as a Wildspeaker, and if you want to follow along, check in on the channel. If you got some questions, post them below, then I'll get back to you. And yeah, thanks for sticking with me this long, and have a good one, and enjoy Phrecia.